education and the cultural zeitgeist does a bad job, and like we leave these things behind. And to actually see like real human beings who live there and who, you know, who have created something there.
Well, hey everyone,
No
my name is Nathan
worries.
Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and welcome back to Film Journeys with Nathan Jones. This time I have my friend Celeste de la Cabra on the channel, and Celeste and I have actually been, I feel like, interacting with each other for like a year and some change, maybe. We've crossed paths quite a bit, just with
Hmm.
mutual friends. But welcome to the channel, Celeste.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, I have been in your orbit, as it were, for quite some time. And yeah, I feel like this was destined to happen at some point. Um, and here we are on 420, on Easter, on
On
the year of
Easter,
our Lord.
420.
He is risen
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, he is. I'm probably gonna watch Life of Brian just for religious
Mm-hmm.
sakes, of course. Uh,
Yeah, it's a
you know,
spiritual film.
yeah, and maybe watch a little History Part of the World Part One because they have that big because it's the other 420, so it's another holiday, a
You know, I've had
better
that one
holiday.
for years and I haven't seen it yet.
It's okay. It's definitely not one of the best, but for Mel Brooks, he's fun, but yeah, no, well, it's the holiday season, and yeah, like you said, it's been a long time coming. So, and I'm also just because a lot of our interests overlap as well. But obviously, for the people here watching, so Celeste, tell us more about like what you do on your channel and also this internet in general, I guess, because you've got quite a bit of different spaces that you're in, which is
Yeah.
is quite cool.
Thanks. So I like to say that I do film analysis for cult and art house films on my YouTube channel. Although I'm kind of lately been dipping into more just straightforward film criticism. I never used to like to call myself a film critic because I really think of myself more as someone who is able to analyze the themes as opposed to just tell you if it's good or not. But I've been kind of trying my hand at that with all the stuff I'm seeing in the theater and doing shorts about that and stuff like that. So I'm kind of trying that a bit too, and it has been successful so far, and I've been enjoying it. So, um, but yeah, definitely also a big focus on physical media, but more specifically like the films that are on the discs and everything. I think that it's a really great medium and a really great avenue and opportunity to talk about stuff that's not necessarily current or in the news, but becomes current and in the news because of a recent restoration or release or something like that. Like, I don't know. Without the Blu-ray release, I wouldn't have an opportunity to talk about like fucking what, like horrible Dr. Hitchcock or something like that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, so it's a
Mhm.
really cool opportunity to go that way, and it's a sort of education as well with all the special features and stuff like that. So I'm also a regular contributor to Punk Vacation, the unofficial Vinegar Syndrome podcast, hosted by my friend Chris Haskell of They Live by Film, where I review all of the adult titles that they put out every month. Um, so I used to do a monthly segment covering all the Vinegar Syndrome titles, and then I got burned out on that, and I don't have a subscription anymore, so that's kind of gone by the wayside. But this is the sort of speaking of Easter, this is the sort of rebirth of that segment, as it were, the
Speaking of Easter.
resurrection, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
that's
yeah.
awesome. That I didn't know about your unofficial podcast. That's a
Oh
good way
yeah.
to get back in. So I was going to say, other than that, you've done quite a bit of work with our mutual friend Ryan over at Disconnected. I know.
Hmm.
And have you contributed to some of those projects too? I mean, I feel like I've seen you all over the place with different things. So
I have not actually. I have not been asked to do that yet, but yeah, I'm on his channel all the time, and we're always cooking up something. So yeah, he's a
sure.
dear friend of mine.
Yeah, no, Ryan's great, and it's been a long time since I've seen him like physically, so I need to go do that and take a trip,
Hmm.
because he's a great person. So, um, anyway,
The
but
busiest
yeah,
person I
no,
know.
he's one of the best people on this platform, that's for sure.
Oh,
So
I said he is that too, but I said he's the busiest person I
that is damn true. It's,
know.
and to have kids and a wife and a big boy job
Hmm.
and all the things that he
Hmm.
does. on top of that
Yeah,
is quite it blows my mind. I'm like, "Do you even sleep, right?" Do you
I don't think he
so
does.
no, I don't think so either. But yeah, no, back to you, Celeste. I was gonna say it's been a pleasure because I mean the other thing too is we have a lot of mutual interests in obviously with film, but for the people who
Mhm,
don't normally watch this, we also have a very similar music taste and aesthetic. I think a lot of our like metal, like black metal and the kind of indie rock and various things. We talked about the records behind me, but like the
mhm,
various music avenues that we enjoy is they overlap quite a bit, which is always it was always a pleasure to hear from other
mhm.
people because
Yeah,
there's very few of us.
yeah,
Mm.
like, there are plenty of, like, metalheads out there that I can connect on that, or, like, there's plenty of people that are really into, like, emo and post-hardcore, and I can connect on that, but, like, when I see the records behind you and the sheer, like, variety and breadth of, like, different genres, I'm like, "Okay, this is a person I can talk to about this," because I it's very difficult actually to describe my music taste. Like, if people ask me, "What kind of music do you like?" I'm like, it's not everything, but it's kind of
Yeah,
everything," like, it's
yeah, that's the
yeah.
best way to put it. It's a kind of everything. But I agree with you on the it's hard to explain to people because I would say there's been about maybe I said this the other day. There's been about two or three people in my life that I would argue would match the same kind of type of music I listen to, or at least the same kind of avenues. And you're definitely
Mhm.
one of them who are towards that direction with the variants here. So
Nice.
yeah, well, back to movies. For the people who are watching at home, this kind of segment we normally just kind of talk about and explore how your history with film has pretty much developed you as the person you are now. But my favorite first question to always ask is, what is your earliest movie memory that you can remember?
My earliest movie memory is actually I think it is my very first memory, period. It is of me watching Dumbo in my parents' first house that I don't have any other memories of. So, pretty sure it's that.
Yeah, on
So I like to
VHS, I
say
would
that
assume.
movies are quite literally like my first imprinted memory, and so that might have something to do with where we are today, right?
Yeah. So did you have like the VHS clamshell then?
Almost certainly, yeah. Actually, I know that for a fact. I remember it. Yeah, we had all of them.
Well, nice. How old were you when you think that was like 4 or 5 years old or something?
I think it was like 2 or 3.
Oh wow, yeah, even
Yeah.
further.
Yeah, I'm
So
pretty
that
sure.
yeah,
It was probably like 2. Yeah.
that's amazing though. I mean, I like that it's both your first memory and the reason you're obsessed right now with
Mhm.
probably one of the reasons. But
Yeah,
um,
shout out Dumbo.
yeah, shout out Dumbo, the OG.
Mhm.
Also speaking of that, that is set in Joplin, which is really nearby where I live. Um,
Oh, okay.
so of all places. But anyway, I guess from there, what did childhood look like in terms of movies? Did you like watch more VHSs at home, or did you like go to the theater, or is there a family member that kind of imprinted that on you a little bit?
Yeah, even though our tastes have diverged quite a bit at this point, I think my mom is kind of the reason that I got so into movies as an art form, but also just as the way that she approaches it is very similar and was unique at the time, at least for me. Like, nobody else I knew really approached it like this. Like, we would rent where we had the Netflix DVD rental, and we had like the highest tier, and we would get those all the time. And like, we would always I have a lot of memories of um going to the video store, but also in my mom is from Costa Rica, so I've been there like every year from like 0 to like 19 or something like that. Like, I've visited many times and spent a few summers there. And so I remember going to the video stores in Costa Rica and like the bootleg video stores that they have too. Going to the theater all the time. I just have a lot. Like, it was just a thing. Like, we saw a lot of movies growing up. And one thing that I remember in particular that I think has stuck with me was that my mom would want to watch something, and then my dad would be like, "Cool, what's it about?" And she'd say, "I don't know." And I'm like, that's how I am now. Like, people ask me that, and I'm like, I don't know, I caught a vibe and it looks good, like,
Yeah,
or I
exactly.
heard it was good, so I wanna see it, like, that's really about it, like, or, someone that I like is in it, or somebody that I like directed it, or, like, that's kind of it, like, I liked the poster, I don't know, like, I think
Yeah,
it
you
looks
don't have to
interesting, so I wanna
explain
see it.
why everything is the way it is, it's just like, I
Or,
like
like,
it.
I knew what it was about at some point, and I immediately forgot, and now I just know that it sounds interesting, so it's like, um, like that new movie Sinners that's out. I'm trying to learn as little about it as possible because if the hype has been so big, and I know that it's a vampire movie, and I know that it's like set in the Jim Crow South, and that's it. I'm like, stop telling me things about this movie.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to
I've
just
only
go
seen the
see it.
trailer, and I've very much like you, am trying to
Hmm.
avoid as much
Hmm.
as is possible about it because I've heard good things too.
Another thing that I remember is that we would just, except for horror, which I had to get into on my own because my mom hates it. There was definitely not like we're only watching new stuff, or we're only watching classics, or we're only watching kids stuff. Like, it was just kind of like a lot of everything. Like, I remember in the Netflix DVD stuff, we'd get in like Citizen Kane and like the new Adam Sandler movie and Spirited Away and stuff like that. Like it was pretty diverse. Um, and yeah, I remember watching like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and 12 Angry Men and stuff like that. Like my mom was just kind of like, if she hears it's good, she wants to try it out. Um, and I don't remember there being any prejudice against like old movies or black and white movies or anything like that. Like it was very inclusive sort of
Yeah,
movie diet.
and that's, I mean, honestly, pretty rare for
Mhm.
parents just in general. But anyone I know, I guess we're the same age parents could be. But thinking about you know my parents, there's I like the idea of pretty much being like, "Oh, I've heard it's good. I'm curious. I'm gonna watch it." And I think
Mhm.
that's something that is hard for a lot of people to do, especially with, like you said, with like prejudices, if it's like black or white, or if it's like foreign, I suppose, like in not English. So
Mhm.
a lot of people just like turn their brain off immediately and just no subtitles. So
Yep. That's another thing because English is not my mom's first language. One of the ways she learned English was to put subtitles on everything. And so growing up from day one, I've had subtitles on everything. Um, and I think because I'm autistic, I have like audio processing issues. And so they help me regardless, but it also might just be a thing with like, because that's how I've watched it forever. I'm very used to it, and so it's, like, tough for me without it. I'm getting used to it again, like, going to the theater so much, but I used to not wanna go to the theater because they didn't have subtitles.
yeah,
But that's never ever been like, when people say, like, "Oh, I don't wanna read a movie," I look at them like they're an alien or something. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, you're it's like a cheat code or something, like, you get to see everything they're saying, and you won't miss anything, like, it's great. Like, I don't know.
yeah. The
But
amount of people who
people are
just
really
don't
like that. It's
enunciate.
weird. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's strange too, because I mean, to be fair, at least with I to some people in this modern age, I know with like Netflix and streaming services, you have the opportunity to put like subtitles on. People are becoming more and more aware of just putting it
Mhm.
on as like a casual thing because people are like, I
Yeah.
don't know what they're saying, and so I know just a lot of people who still don't watch like maybe like international pictures and will still have subtitles on, just because that's it's a better way to do it because you are honestly putting more attention to literally everything. You can actually pay
Mhm.
attention to the movie and read and like hear what they're
Yeah,
saying.
it's not like buried in a menu for every single title. Like you can literally just turn it on your Roku, like subtitles on always, and you never have to think about it again. And so I think it is becoming more normalized and people are getting used to it.
Yeah, I wish they did put it in theaters though too. I mean, even for like people who maybe have like a hearing and issues. That's something that I think people
Yeah.
should, I mean, they should just have those
So
options.
okay, now we're on a tangent about subtitles, but that's okay. There are options in theaters. Like they do have devices that you can go get at the front desk where it's like captioning devices. It used to be this thing that you would put in your drink holder, and then it's like a snake, and then like a little screen that would have the subtitles. That
I
one was
vaguely
pretty
recall
good,
that.
but like it always felt a little bit obstructive. Like I felt weird if there were people behind me that could see that. So I would try to sit in the back with that. Lately, because I went to see Nosferatu and I couldn't understand a goddamn word that man was saying. And so I was like, let me watch it again and let me get the subtitle device because I'm gonna do a review for it. I want to like make sure I understood everything. Um, uh, and I went and they gave me this like headgear thing where it's like on it was very uncomfortable and you have to be looking at it like at the right angle and it was very like a lot of pressure on my head. I didn't like it at all. Um,
Huh.
it was rough. I mean, they're kind of like subtitle classes almost, but like it's
Yeah.
a whole computer too and everything. So it's like a whole thing. Didn't care for that. I know that they do also do screenings for like open captions or whatever, but it's like
Yeah. Those are
one
the ones I know
screening
more about.
out of like 100 or something. You know, like it's very, very limited and like I don't know, showtimes these days are limited already, so to like put that on it would be nice, but it's like never something that just works for my schedule. So
Sure.
yeah.
Well, it's good to hear that there's options at least.
Hmm.
Not necessarily the glasses. That sounds a little obstructive, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
this was Regal. I don't know if AMC still has a better option. But the last time I did it was at a Regal and it was rough.
well, kind of thinking about, I guess those core memories. It sounds like your mom, pretty much was open to a lot of different stories from like all over the current times, and then also just the past. Was there like a moment in like adolescence that you kind of developed the love more so, or like any particular films that you remember growing up as like a teenager that you like kind of clung to that you recall?
Um, Good question. You know, something else that's occurring to me. I think that having the experience of an immigrant is something that really helps with like not being so locked into just one thing or whatever. Like I think growing up as an American, like everything is for you, you know, like the studio system and like Hollywood is like what movies are for most people. But if you grew up somewhere else and you have two different cultures that you've lived in or whatever, I think you're more amenable or more open to different ideas and different things. To actually answer your question, some things that I remember, I guess, I'm just gonna list some films that I remember being like core, like obsessions and like really, really things that I was really into. I remember really loving The Princess Bride when I was young, and then The Terminator was like the first R-rated movie I got to see, and I was obsessed with it and I loved it. I used to be a T1 over T2 person, like for years until I finally rewatched them like during COVID or whatever. And I was like, I don't know, T2 is like a perfect movie. Like that one's kind of
Yeah,
better,
yeah.
honestly. Um, T3 is awful. Like I remember liking it a lot as a kid and watching it again. I'm like, this movie is terrible. Anyway,
Only
that's
really
an aside.
remember the beginning, which is probably all you need to really remember.
um, and then Underworld, the Underworld movies I was obsessed with. I remember Batman, Mask of the Phantasm was one that was a big deal. I have a very like core memory of seeing that in a video store and checking it out, and that movie is amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, agreed.
What else? I mean, oh, you know what? I had a friend in high school who was really into movies too, so he kind of got me back into it a little bit. Um, and his favorite movie was The Princess Bride, which is fun. What else? I mean, it really didn't become the level that it's at I until COVID, because
Hmm.
in college I kind of took a break entirely, and then past that it was just kind of here and there, and then when I couldn't go to shows anymore, which was like my entire thing, that's like all I did, and that's all I thought about was like seeing as many shows as I could and like listening to all the bands that were playing and just really diving in and being obsessive with expanding my music taste and artists that I was familiar with and everything. And then that kind of went away, and I needed something else to fill that obsessive gap. um, Also, though, in high school is when I got into horror movies. My cousin was really into them, and I had never seen one like at all until I was like 16, 15, something like that. Um, so I wasn't allowed to watch them for a long time, and then it's just not something my mom likes. And he was like, "Are you serious? You've never seen a horror movie?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like I was like scared of them. I was like, I don't know. This is like a big thing, you know. Like I've
I was
never
scared
seen
pretty
one
late
in my
too.
life." um, and then we watched The Strangers, and I didn't. find
You
it
go straight
scary
for one of the
even.
scariest ones.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I didn't think it was scary at all, like, even a little
Sure.
bit. I was like, "Is this it? Like, this is what I've been hyping up and, like, afraid of? Like, it's nothing." Um, and then we watched, I think it was Grave Encounters, and the movie scared the
Okay.
shit out of me, and I was like, "Okay, this is fun. I like this." And we watched all the Paranormal Activities and those, um, I like those a lot, and I did find that I think found footage actually works really well for me in terms of, like, a format and, like, a way to actually get under my skin. There's some really awful ones, obviously, because it's like a shortcut for low budget.
Sure.
But if it's done for artistic reasons or it's done well, if as long as I can buy it, like I can just kind of get into that, it definitely feels more immersive or more like something that's really happening or something that's easier to uh identify with as like a person that is afraid, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I really like a lot of found footage was kind of my gateway into the horror genre where it like because yeah, Grave Encounters and then Paranormal Activity where I was like, oh, this is actually scary. This actually is working for me and like the way it was advertised, you know. And then I got into more like I remember renting The Exorcist from the library and The Shining, and, you know, Night of the Living Dead, doing my homework as it were.
Yeah,
And just
yeah.
kind of being like, yeah, this is and like as a person who is really into metal and uh punk and all that stuff, it's like I feel like the horror is like the genre equivalent of that stuff for movies. It's like it's a very
Yeah.
easy, like it's a very natural thing where it's like, oh, okay, so I like this.
He's like, "Oh, I'm
The
looking
Evil
at
Dead
these
was a
lyrics."
really
I'm
big one
like,
too. Hmm.
"Yeah, yeah." I mean, yeah, you get people like Trevor from Black Dahlia Murder. I mean, you literally have the entire,
Yeah.
you know, subgenre of death metal as like, hey, I want to watch a Fulci movie, or I'm going to watch
Hmm.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's
Yeah.
just an
Hmm.
Evil Dead. There's that
Hmm.
comedic side too. So that's cool that you were able to bridge that gap, which seems natural, right? So you said in high school, it sounds like you had a friend who was also like into movies like Princess Bride, but then also you kind of delved into like found footage horror and like kind of explored those I guess subgenres that you weren't as familiar with. So
Hmm.
that what you think would be probably the turning point to like the kind of obsession of it, or I mean, obviously you said COVID is kind of where
Yeah.
it became to where we are now,
Yeah.
just
And
doing
yeah,
things,
I don't
but
know that I would consider it an obsession yet. It would just be like one of my big interests or something I was really into.
sure.
But it wasn't an obsession until COVID and I got the Criterion channel and it just kind of went from there. And then I started buying Blu-rays and that took off and was a disease in and of itself, right?
It is a disease.
That's really when the full-on obsession took hold, I think. Yeah, so a little bit late, but it's always been simmering, we just needed the breaking point to hit, and that was a worldwide pandemic where I couldn't be exclusively obsessed with music for a little bit, you know?
That's fair. I was gonna say, speak more about I mean, did you just go to a lot of shows locally where you were at? Because I know where I live. I mean, it's a decent scene. It's more of a hardcore scene, but
Mhm.
pretty much I have to go a couple hours away to pretty much watch my artists that are here. I know like East Coast in particular. I mean, you have like the New England, Death and uh, Hardcore Fest, and there's just I feel like there's so much more background where you're at in terms of those bands. But
Mhm.
is there any like artists that you saw during that like before COVID times that you would like say are some of your favorites?
I mean, almost all of them. It's like if you name a band, there's a decent chance I've seen them. I went to so many, and I still go to a lot of shows, but I thought during COVID, I was like, man, I'm never skipping a gig again. This is like, I hope we can just ever do this again. And I'll like never take it for granted. But now it's kind of like the opposite where I'm kind of like, I don't know, like I do want to go to these things, but it has to, it has to rise to the level of I'd rather do this instead of stay home and watch a movie, you know?
Yep.
And so, uh, like the other night I saw Chiodos on their reunion tour. That was a big deal. I was
Yeah, of
not gonna miss
course.
that, you know? But like a lot of these like local gigs of like a band I've seen a bunch of times already, or just like, oh, it's just a thing to hang out. It's like, I can do that by myself. I don't need to spend $10 and be in a place and do a whole thing, you know? I got other stuff going on now, you know? the channel is just so much of my bandwidth and time and energy, so it's kind of like, again, like there's a calculus now where it's like, well, can I put off this like work I need to do to go to this show? Like what else? Recently I saw Under Oath do
Nice.
They're Only
Yeah.
Chasing Safety the whole way through. That was a big deal. I was not going to be able to skip that. I don't know. So like there's it's just a different level of calculation now. But like during my peak, because Richmond is a pretty happening town in terms of its music taste. I think it is pretty underrated. A lot of stuff comes through here. But
Hmm.
also I'm fortunate to be within driving distance of a few other like major markets. Like DC I can do in an evening. Like I can do that in a work day or in a work night. Like I'm kind of insane. I'll just like get off of work, drive to DC, see the show, and come right back and be home at 2 a.m. and
Yep.
go to bed.
Been there. Done that a couple times.
I've done
100
that a
times.
lot of times actually. Yeah. In college, it was really bad. I was literally like, I have all this work to do, like all this homework to do, but fucking Paradise Lost is playing in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So literally, I was a poli sci major and I would just buy the audiobook for the book I was supposed to have read by tomorrow and listen to it on 2 times speed on my drive. And by the time I got back, it was done and I had seen the show. And I was like, I did my
Nice.
work too. Like, I did kind of insane shit like that.
Yeah. They're great live, by the way. I've seen them
Yeah,
before
they are good.
as well.
So
Man.
yeah, there's a lot of accessible places too. Like Virginia Beach has some stuff. Charlottesville has some stuff. Baltimore is it's just far enough that it's really got to be worth it because at this point I don't know that I have the 3 hour drive in me all the time. And then like there's cities in North Carolina that less frequently have stuff that I could go to, but it is still an option. I actually recently went to my hometown Roanoke to see the Magnetic Fields play 69 Love Songs the whole way through. So I mean, there's places around where like if it's really a big thing and it doesn't hit Richmond, I can make it work. So
Yeah.
there were
Well,
there were weeks in college where I literally had 5 shows back to back to back to back to back, like Monday through Friday. I was going to a different show every night, and it was like this is a lot, but what can you do?
yeah. Well, I mean, I never had 5 nights in a row. That's insane. Because I think the most I've ever had in a week is maybe three. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, which, like I said, where I live, it's. I used to actually bartend here at a venue, um, but it was we mostly have cover bands here, not so much. The first metal show we actually had was Dying Fetus of all things, and I'm like,
I just bought I
you're
just
going
bought a
straight
ticket to see
for.
them again.
Yeah, they're so much fun. And it's just wild to see that in Springfield where I live, and I'm like,
Hmm.
they're here. Anyway, but that being said, yeah, but no, I like the idea of what you said in terms of like prioritizing time, because like I don't know, I feel like the older we get, like our bandwidth really is like just so precious for what we put our energy into. Obviously, passions like music or movies or things that a lot of us here who are watching this right now, and obviously us, are obsessed with. Like that's why we put in the energy here. But I feel like more and more I'm very particular with my time, because
Hmm.
now, I mean, now I go to bed at like 9 o'clock in the morning, or sorry, 9 o'clock at night, which is really early for a lot of people. But I'm like, I wake up and I watch a movie at like 4:30 in the morning, which is insane to people, but I'm like, you prioritizing
That sounds
what
nice
you,
to me.
yeah. So, but no, that's cool that you're in a good location for all those concerts. I'm jealous. So of
Yeah,
that.
I was just thinking, I did have 3 shows this week because I saw the Magnetic Fields twice, and then I saw Chiodos on Friday. So it was a crazy week, but yeah.
What would, like you said, during COVID, you kind of focus more on the physical media aspect inside of it.
Hmm.
How did you get into this space, like of YouTube, and then also just like Instagram, and then and those, were there other people you were watching, or were there any people that inspired you to do kind of your own path? What did that look like?
Sure. That's a good question. Yeah, I've always wanted to do a YouTube channel because I'm very opinionated and I talk a lot, and I just need a space to put all of that out there. And, majoring in political science and being a very political person, I've always just kind of like, well, maybe I'll just do politics. I'll do a politics channel, or social issues or whatever, video essays, that kind of thing. Because I feel like to start a project like this, you need a kind of angle or a kind of niche or a kind of like, yeah, you just need something to kind of get you in. Like, um, I don't know, just uploading a video like, here's my opinions on politics. Like, that's not really that's not a very streamlined or organized way to start something. So I didn't really have that to get started on that front. And then I was watching all these movies, and me and my ex would have really good conversations about them. And I was like, I think I'm pretty good at this actually. Like, I'm finding like meaning and political themes and stuff like that in these movies that I'm not seeing as much anywhere else. I'm seeing it more now that I'm more into it, and there's like thoughtful people that I follow and stuff like that. But I do feel like the YouTube criticism that I watched growing up in high school, like, this is not, well, this is to throw shade on one of these people, but like Chris Stuckman, he's a good guy, but I feel like
Right.
his reviews are very surface level. It's just not really my thing. He does what he
Sure.
does, and he does it well, but it's just not my thing. Jeremy Johns is another one that I watched growing up, and like, fuck that guy, I can't stand him. But like,
Yeah, I'm in the
that's the
same boat.
kind of
I'm not
thing.
really. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I think is what people think of when they think of like, or like fucking cinema sins or something like that sort of like garbage nitpicking, like all that stuff like is very popular, and I can't stand it. Like, and so I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I'm not going to act like I invented thoughtful analysis of movies. Like, obviously that's been a thing for a long time,
Mhm.
but a lot of that stuff does exist in very academic circles, or in very like in written mediums, or like in books, and Substack, and maybe podcasts or something like that. And so I think it is a little bit more rare to combine it with the visual element and like being approachable and entertaining and funny at the same time as well. So that's kind of what I try to do. So that was the genesis of the idea. In terms of inspiration, I mean, I was really into Criterion for a bit, and the Criterion Now podcast was um, something I listened to and enjoyed. And they were kind enough to invite me on just as a person. I didn't have any projects or anything like that. I was just active on their Facebook group, and they were like, "This person's cool. Let's invite them on." And they're still friends of mine. Aaron and Jill, they're great. So that was my first foray into a recorded medium, and I was like, that was pretty good, and I enjoyed that. Let me just do this. Um, and so yeah, I think in terms of YouTubers that I started watching, like mid-level media, Tim Talks Talkies, you know, that whole scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is an angle that I can go for. I didn't really like and it actually worked, honestly. Like, if anybody wants to start a channel and needs some advice, just uploading a video that's like a Minecraft movie, my review, like, nobody cares. Like, who are you? Honestly, like, that's kind of, I mean, maybe it'll take off if you have the right combination of luck and the right thumbnail and title and stuff. But like,
Right.
if you can break into a kind of established fan base and like have an interesting take on that, because like there's a built-in audience for the Blu-ray stuff. There's a ceiling to it, and that's kind of where I'm at now, where I'm like trying to incorporate that but also branch out a little bit. Sorry, this is sounding a little bit inside baseball at this point, but
No, I get it now. I mean, like,
um
it's exactly what you talked about at the beginning, trying different reviews. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
um and like, with something that already has like, people will click on that just because there's a group of people that are really dedicated to it. And it's a good way to get started. And there's also this community in particular is extremely like kind and welcoming and chill. um so that's just my kind of free advice to anybody who wants to start a channel doing this kind of thing. I think meeting Ryan was a big thing. Like, I saw him. KB was another early person that was a friend of mine that I saw and that invited me on his channel, and I saw his conversation with Ryan, and I was like, oh, this person like gets it. I like am on this person's wavelength.
Mhm.
And I reached out to him, and I was like, hey, we should do something, and we did, and we just clicked really well. And now we do stuff all the time.
I'm actually like very proud to see kind of what you've done on the platform
Thank
in
you.
terms of it, just I think in general too is you mentioning that the community for the most part is pretty welcoming. I would say, but I like the idea of us being ourselves on top of trying to put you know I guess the content that we put out. Obviously, there's some surface level stuff, and then there's some more deep analysis of different things. And so I always have respected that about you, and especially, you know, being friends with Ryan and Kirby and along those lines, it's always just refreshing to have more people in that sphere. So
Mhm. Yeah, and,
Mm.
I feel like I have also I kind of did my original goal of, like, talking about politics on YouTube because in my opinion, all art is political, every movie is political. You just gotta think about it hard enough and, like,
Yeah,
find the angle or, like, even apolitical art is making a statement and exists in a time of, some kind of political context that it is choosing to ignore or, I guess, reify in some way if it is just not saying anything, right? And so, and again, this part I really am not trying to talk shit because I like a lot of these people who just kind of do the physical media stuff and just talk about like stuff they're picking up and like what they thought about it and the transfer stuff. I watch that stuff. It's valuable to me.
yeah,
But again, like I'm trying to kind of do a more deep analysis of these films. And I think that's a way that I can kind of bridge the gap between like apolitical people and like getting them to think about things a little bit more deeply because like art is something universal that I think any interesting or halfway thoughtful person engages with, and if they can think about something like this in a way that they haven't before, or like if they hadn't considered that maybe I don't know, The Terminator is a very political movie,
right.
or something like that. I'm trying to think of something more specific that I've actually reviewed, but like Barbarian was a super political, socially conscious movie.
Oh, absolutely.
And I reviewed that. So yeah, that's kind of been my. I'm sure I meant to arrive at a point somewhere, but yeah.
No, I mean, it resonates with me a lot too. I actually, so I, going back to my college days, my grad school days, communication was my degree that I got that in, and a lot of our conversations were about um, like one of my favorite courses that I took was like communication as dissemination, and a lot of the
Mm,
ways that you know things are political, like overtly political, like everything is overtly political. Doesn't matter like what the context is, like you said, even if they're avoiding it or part of it, there's something there, and it's
mhm,
communicating that. And you know, I love the bread and butter kind of just turn my brain off type of stuff. I mean, I'm like I love Adam Sandler movies, even though I know
mhm,
he's relatively conservative, but like not in I don't feel like in a very negative way. But
yeah,
at the same time, like I'll watch something along the lines of like obviously like Sinners, which we won't talk about, right? Which clearly has a political undertone to it, on top of a genre movie that looks
mhm,
like, and so it's just this cool collaboration that I think more people like. I feel like that one's maybe more overtly obvious for some people, but watching something like RoboCop or Terminator, there's clear political things going on there. That's hearing people point it out, or at least having the question of
mhm,
asking people to like think a little bit more about what they're watching is
mhm,
incredibly important. And
yeah.
especially for if you want to have a decently healthy society, which I don't know if we do or not. So
Well, not to uh
yeah.
overestimate my importance or kind of impact or whatever, but like kind of yeah, we're at a really dark place in our society where like
Mm.
uh critical analysis is like actively frowned upon and like
Mhm.
you're oh yeah, you're just overthinking it or like oh, it's not that deep or whatever or like anti-intellectualism is kind of taken hold at the forefront of our political structure and moment and everything. And I don't know, like I don't know how to fix it to be honest. It's
No.
so bad, but like I do think that everybody likes movies more or less. I mean, that's also something that we could talk about where I feel like the art form itself has kind of fallen out of favor a little bit. But um if that's a way that I can get in the door to somebody actually thinking about these things and maybe like considering a new perspective or something like that or like because this is the sort of thing, at least for me, when you see it, you can't unsee it. You know, like when it clicks, and it's like, oh, this isn't just dumb entertainment. This is like saying something. You know, I think the first time I realized that, like independently, was when I saw Avatar in the theater, and I was like, oh, they were clearly trying to like tell me something. Like, like James Cameron really wants me to recycle. You know, like that's what I got out of it, and that was like not something that had ever occurred to me before. I was just like, oh, you go to have a good time. Trying to watch as many of the new movies coming out as possible and review them. I'm noticing that they're getting less subtle. I think they're also kind of like, hey, you're not paying attention. Like, listen up. This is what we're talking. Like, there's so many movies now that I'll come out of it and be like, kind of seems like this movie's about fascism. Kind of seems like this movie's about stupid dictators, or like Mickey 17 was so
Right,
obvious.
Mickey
You know?
17, very obvious.
Mhm. Another one,
Yeah,
Freaky Tales, that came out recently, is very like they just say it straight up to the camera at the end of the movie. You know, like it's yeah, it's
it's
there's definitely a response happening
yeah.
in art.
Well, I
You
mean,
know.
I mean, luckily, I mean, even if it's not as subtle, I suppose.
Hmm.
You know, like that unfortunate times like this, you know, it does breed forth like better art in terms of like criticism and whatnot. But again, criticism is kind of unfortunately a little dead in the water
Mm.
for a lot of pop culture now because of certain things. But I definitely appreciate and the unfortunate side effect of like it's the same with music, right? Like good music comes out of a lot of this like tumultuous stuff. Like the Callis Boys are like one of the art bands that I really like right now that I
I
think
saw
are
them the other night. They opened for Chiodos.
nice. I was gonna say I'm excited. I'm so excited for their new album. I've been putting their stuff on repeat,
Hmm.
but yeah, no, just I mean, I think the other thing too is like what we're kind of to kind of put this together for people watching. Um, it's just really humbling to see another person who is thinking about the things that they're like, I guess, consuming in a way. Not to use that term, but like just thinking about the things that they're like passionate about, but like
Hmm.
not just. It doesn't have to. It doesn't always have to. You know, it could be a popcorn movie, but it also could mean something else. Um,
Yeah,
so it's always yeah, it's fun to fun. I don't know if it's the right word, but it's good to be
I think it's fun.
uh
That's why I do
yeah,
this. It's
it
fun
is
for
fun.
me, but I know for other people, it's like eating vegetables or doing homework or something. You know.
Sure.
But I'm hoping to kind of make it more accessible and just kind of like, hey, it's actually kind of fun to use your brain a little bit and like have some critical analysis and like get something out of it other than like figure out why something did or didn't connect with you. You know, I think you'll have a richer relationship with art if you do that. You know.
Absolutely. Um kind of crafting back to you know to film in general like is there a few movies you would say like have kind of imprinted upon you that you would say is like a recommendation to other people like who would describe you as a person? Is there like movies that you would like some favorites I suppose that would represent you as a person?
Let's see how well it shows up on camera. My Wicker Man tattoo.
Mhm.
The original, yeah, you can kind of see it. The original Wicker Man is my favorite film of all time. That one, I am the least spiritual person I know, and that film had like I had like a spiritual experience with that movie the first time I saw it. It felt like it like genuinely changed my life, and it was like made for me, you know, like
Mhm.
it was just aesthetically and thematically, it was just so exactly what I needed and like what I wanted, and like I'm just obsessed with it. There's a lot of hours online of me talking about that movie at this point. Um, Mulholland Drive is another one that I think really, and David Lynch in general. You know that's my guy. Like he is my goat. You know, like that's the guy right there. Like I just get him. Like everything I see from him. Well, except for Dune, but I need to rewatch it. I need to give it
Right.
another shot for our boy David. You know,
It's a
but
little
even he
tough
doesn't
but I
like
get it.
Dune, so I'm
Yeah,
like, okay.
you have a
Um,
little bit of validation.
right. But you know, aside from that, everything I've seen from him, I'm just like, and again, this might sound like I'm trying to like flex or bragging or something. I'm really not. But it's like his movies have a reputation for being so inscrutable or so difficult to understand, or like what the fuck just happened, or and like I don't know. I watched Mulholland Drive and I was like, I don't know. I think I just get it. Like I think I understand what happened, or like what he wanted me to feel, or what he was trying to say. I get that part for sure. You know,
Yeah,
we could nitpick every single shot or every single red herring or every single little diversion, or but I think that that's besides the point. I think people get caught up on the small things, and like it's more about the larger picture and how it makes you feel. And like when I saw Eraserhead, I was like really gearing up, like, okay, this is gonna be a tough one. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, that was extremely obvious what that was trying to say, you
yeah.
know? I will say, Inland Empire, that movie is tough. That's the one where I was like, oh, this is what it's like for everyone else to watch a David Lynch movie. Where I'm like,
That's one I
I
haven't
don't
seen
know.
yet. So, but I know about its reputation because
It is
there's
so dense
difficult.
and
Yeah,
esoteric and like I mean, surreal. What a obvious word to use for David Lynch. But like, also,
right.
there's something about the runtime and the subject matter and the fact that it's shot on video where it's an ugly experience and it's difficult to sit through. I have not revisited it yet. I watched it and I was like, that's not something I'm going to be able to pick apart in one viewing. I need to let that sit with me. I need to watch these special features. I need to watch it again. Ended up on the back burner, didn't end up happening, so I need to revisit it. But that movie's tough. I still think it's great, but it's really like I don't know, like you let like somebody let that man go hard, just like do whatever you want, like really, and it feels like his other films are tethered to some kind of like narrative structure or some kind of like, okay, this has to appeal to somebody other than me,
Right.
right? And this one is like he's just not interested at all. Like, let's make the ugliest, most uncomfortable movie we possibly can, and it's admirable for sure. And I do love it, but it was tough.
Sure. Well, it took me till Twin Peaks to finally catch on to him a little bit
I
because I
think
mean,
that's the way to do it.
yeah, I do too. I mean, it kind of eases you. I mean, that or like Blue Velvet,
Hmm.
something along those lines where I feel like because for the longest time I was actually pretty like around my friends. I know Sam, who's probably going to watch this, is very big into Lynch, film blogger Sam,
Hmm.
and he we always talk about this and how much I did not like David Lynch for the longest time because I had seen Mulholland Drive and I had seen Blue Velvet. I'm like, this just feels like a cheap TV movie, and I just didn't, get the aesthetic. And then I finally watched Twin Peaks this last summer, and everything clicked with me. And I'm just like, okay. And then I rewatched Blue Velvet. I'm like, that's a masterpiece. And then I rewatched Mulholland Drive. I'm like, that's a masterpiece. I get it. And
Yeah.
or at least I get the idea of again what you were saying. It's more of like you don't not everything needs to be dissected like piece by
Hmm.
piece. It's like you understand kind of the vision like or the general I guess vibe. I don't know how the best way to describe it, but like this the kind of the that there's maybe not a point to something, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like I get that a
Yeah.
lot now, and I'm in that headspace a lot more as I'm watching movies. And when I talk to people who are really nitpicky, I kind of have this approach in the back of my mind, being like, "Does it have to mean anything?"
Yeah, I mean, I think people do like want to like pick apart plot holes or be like, "Oh, this one thing doesn't exactly match with this other thing." And like, I think I would encourage people, especially if you're trying to get into David Lynch, I would encourage you to zoom out a bit and be like, "What is this generally about?" Not just like in a plot sense, but like because I'll give you some hints. Like the evil undercurrent of Americana and American life is something he returns to all the time. Violence against women and the horrific experience of being a woman in America is something he returns to all the time. Like there are themes in his films that you can pick apart and like glean pretty easily if you kind of don't get caught up on the small stuff. And like I think for him, it's in particular something that you just got to kind of let go of trying to understand every single thing and just kind of like because he's operating in dream logic. But also like I think he's just trusting that it will make sense in
Yeah,
some way, and it doesn't make sense literally, but it makes sense thematically and it makes sense emotionally. Um, and I think he's just like it would be interesting if we did this, or like this is just making sense to me, or I literally dreamed about it, or something. And it's like
yeah.
you're not gonna know necessarily because like he might not even know, and if he does, he's not gonna tell you. So it's like
Right, right.
you just gotta kind of, I don't know, let it wash over you and kind of really think about how did that make you feel? You know, how did that like what sort of ideas are being explored here? You know, I don't know. When I saw Mulholland Drive the first time, like I was, it's another kind of watershed moment for me where I watched that and I was like, oh, this is what this medium is like capable of. Like that was, I don't know, it's unlike anything I've seen, and like it was able to create feelings in me that like, you know, other things really hadn't. It's like this is on par with like any great work of like literature or Shakespeare or something like this is what movie making is capable of.
Well, I like this kind of transition here because I mean you mentioned literature and are you I'm assuming that you also like to read quite a bit,
It's tough.
or
It's tough
maybe in
for
the
me to
past.
find it in the schedule. I was really, really into it when I was a kid. I was always reading. Now it's kind of like audiobooks is really the only way I could fit it in, and
Sure.
even then it has to compete with the, I mean, dozens of podcasts that I listen to, so it's tough. It's
Or
just really
music
a matter of,
or
or
movies.
music, it really is just a matter of hours in the day and the attention span that it requires, you know? So books are tough for me, but yes, I do also love books. Uh, and it's something that I aspire to be better about, you know?
Me too. Me too. Um, well, I mean, I kind of, I mean, I feel like you encapsulated it a little bit in your last discussion, but like, I guess as we are kind of getting near to the end of this conversation, what would you say is like kind of the medium itself of like film, like done for you in your life, and like how has it shaped the way that you look at the world today? Do you have like a particular perspective that maybe you didn't a lot of people just don't know about, I guess?
Sure. That's an interesting question too. I I have something that I come back to a lot is I think this is a Roger Ebert quote where he said that movies are empathy machines. And that's something that I come back to as like kind of what I get out of something, even if I didn't like it, you know? And this is where I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's very good for people to make a point to see foreign films, to make a point to see films directed by women, by queer filmmakers. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit, get out of the canon, which I think a company like Criterion is doing a better job of expanding what that means. Because
Yeah,
whether they
lately
wanted to or
they have
not,
been.
whether they want to or not, they have become like they are like the canon of great films, right? And so they've kind of like, okay, that's not what we're trying to do, but I guess that's what we've been designated, so we should be better. And so there's a lot more diversity in the kind of things that they're uh, including. It's not just like French New Wave and classic Hollywood, right? Or like Japanese cinema. Which all that stuff is great. You should explore all that stuff too. Like Killer of Sheep is coming out soon, and the movie's
Yeah,
amazing, and it's so good, and it's just like it's very accessible. But like I try to think about like, and it's not enough. I need to be better about seeking this stuff out. But like the amount of films from Africa that I've seen, or from Iran, or like India, or you know, like these are countries that I don't have any experience with, and I just did it again. Like Africa as a country, it's not a country; it's a whole fucking continent. But like all
right,
these
right.
countries as like places that I've never been to, that I don't know much about, that traditional education and the cultural zeitgeist does a bad job, and like we leave these things behind, and to actually see like real human beings who live there and who, you know, who have created something there. Like, um, I don't know, like even if I didn't love it that much, like a film from like the Congo or something, you know, or Kenya, like now I at least have images that I can recall back to like give me some kind of grounding or context for like what this place is actually like for the people who live in it. I think I have definitely diverted away from your original question a little bit,
Not at
but
all.
it's like it's an opportunity, I think, for Um, and like you can get these things in books too. And books are like the ways in which people traditionally do this, right? You like learn about something in a book or you watch a documentary or whatever. Those are good ways too. But I think there is really something ineffable and irreplaceable about an image, like especially a moving image that and I mean a documentary will get you there. It'll get you pretty close and you'll actually learn something probably, but I don't know. Watching a film from Libya or something or uh Saudi Arabia or something like that, like you not only get to see the place and you get to see the people, but you get to see what a person there is feeling and thinking, and that I feel like gets you closer to understanding and connection and empathy than just like a list of facts and some drone shots of like the most important sites and whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, you'll have an emotional experience with it, you'll have an emotional connection to it that is different. Or like you know let's imagine a person who doesn't know any gay people, and make them watch Mysterious Skin and then be like, like you feel like those people by the end of it and you can empathize with that experience,
Right.
and you can be like, well, these are human beings, maybe I shouldn't be the way that I am. I don't know,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't be so bigoted, but here we are. I think the thing that a lot of us on this, platform and just in our general space share, and something I've just noticed in general, which is honestly a breath of fresh air, is that like you're saying, kind of that empathy machine, but also just the idea of being curious enough to go outside your comfort zone. I think that is something that is like highly invaluable for people in our space in particular. And I think, I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to toot our own horns here, but like, I think it makes us better people, like in our own lives, because of the people
Hmm.
that we interact with. Because I mean, even if it is like fictional, like, I might be watching, like, just say I'm watching Close Up, the Kiarostami film. Like, I have no context for that life at all.
Hmm.
But the idea of the themes of that movie, and the perspective of it, like it levels you like in a way
Yeah.
that you're like, I've never experienced this. And now there might be people in my life or people I'll never meet that I can sympathize with, or at least understand enough to where, if something happens, I don't have to have this immediate gut reaction of like, oh, this is different. This is not something that I'm used to. So like, this makes me uncomfortable. It's like, no, it makes me more confident in myself and the people around me, and it can show you ways that I think people need to be more like, because
Hmm.
we're all on this rock, unfortunately, whatever that looks like. And so I hopefully we can make it a better time for other people. So
Yeah, I feel like this is an unpopular thing to say right now, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. Diversity is actually good and actually like
very good.
necessary for to become like a well-rounded, compassionate, intelligent person. Like you have to have that in some capacity.
100%.
I'm not saying you got to like make a friend from every marginalized group or something, but if you don't even have like the context or like the bare minimum understanding of like another person's experience, like how are you going to um I don't know. How are you going to act in ways that are not entirely selfish? And like, I think that that's why Republicans hate it so much, or like the Republican Party hates it so much and wants to shit talk it because the more isolated you are, the more easy you are to manipulate and to alienate and marginalize other people. So
Yeah, and live in that
shout
fear.
out DEI is my is my message.
Shout out the AI. I will back that up and 100% agree
Thanks.
with that. Yeah, people need to be uncomfortable. Um,
Yeah,
and because it does make you a better person.
yeah.
Just hands down. And challenging that, it might be comforting or not comforting, but at the end of the day, like, I think, I know it's as miserable as I know some of us probably are in certain ways. I feel liberated by it a little bit, in the sense that I'm like, I'm glad I don't feel like this, or at least I don't act this way, because again, you're outside of that fear, right? You're outside of
Mhm,
that perspective of like it's like, oh, it has to be this way all the time, because it's comfortable, and
mhm.
that's not a way to live. It's not fun that way. So, um, anyway, I'm sure people are like, "What are we talking about? We're talking about movies, or?" It's like we are
Too political
too
comment.
political. Yeah, tell us down below if you agree or disagree.
People
No,
will, I'm sure they will.
yeah. Well, at the end of the day, though, like I'm very happy for the work that you do, Celeste, and I'm very
Thank you.
happy to have you on here. Talking about movies, talking about life, politics, all of it. Because at the end of the day, like that matters. So
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate your kind words and you, inviting me on and granting me the space and everything and, letting me, yap on my bullshit and everything, so I appreciate it.
that's what we do. We love yapping on our bullshit. Well, thanks again, Celeste, and for the
Mhm,
people watching at home, feel free to subscribe to Celeste, and then follow on all the platforms. I'll put those
mhm,
links down there. Also, put that podcast that you mentioned earlier, that unofficial Vinegar Syndrome one. So if you like a little
mhm,
bit of
yeah,
the dirty films,
yeah.
talk about some
If
of
you
those
wanna
movies.
be if you wanna be, sinful
Cool. You
with
want
me,
to? Ooh, sinful. Yeah, that's for Easter.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good one.
exactly. But yeah, it's, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, Celeste La Cabra, and, Letterboxd and Human Ecstasy. You can find me there.
Yeah, put those down there. Thank you all for watching, and being a part of this conversation. Feel free to comment in the comment sections, and hopefully you glean something hopefully really important for yourself and for anybody in your life. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Not jonesing around.
Bye.